course, I've been reading a lot of books, and I got a big breakthrough last week in understanding the concept of, being present, being in the now, identifying or isolating your consciousness with your mind and ego. And I think that's where, Gayatri, when you were sharing about losing control or, having anger, I think that's where it kind of helped me understand this concept. So just to, so I was really, really excited about learning this because I have heard about this concept before, but I really did not, I did not really it didn't really enter my head. So just to summarize what I have learned is, right, so right now, I am with all of you. I am present with all of you. Okay. So in life, in situation, you may have this situation wherein you are there and you don't like it, or whatever be the condition of that scenario. So there are two choices. Either you remove yourself, like if you really don't like that situation, you remove yourself, right? Or if you cannot remove yourself, then you surrender to that moment. And that this is the concept which I didn't really get it earlier. Or the third choice is, if you are not doing either of them, then you are going to suffer because you're feeling like, oh my God, why am I here? Like, you're complaining and you're not enjoying where you are right now. So those are the three things which, you can choose. So let's take an example about children, right? Like when we are, just to answer and address Gayatri's situation. So sometimes, I think the way we react to children is very much dependent on our state of mind, our state of physical state, right? So I myself, like when my children were a little younger, when my son was 4 years and my daughter was 2 years, and I would pick them up, after work, and they would do something which I didn't like. I used to snap. I used to shout. And I really didn't like that feeling. And after that, there is this, great, you go through that, I guess, sense of guilt, right? Like, oh my God, why did I shout to my child? And so it was really not a good phase for any mom to be there. But looking back, and that's also one of my main reason when I started going through the personal growth journey, right? Because your children looks up to you and catch your energy, and if you are not happy, your children will, can feel that. And if you're happy and you're filled with so much of positive energy, they can feel that too. And I noticed that pattern, so when my daughter was born, I really found it like really difficult because I'm over here, I don't have family support. It's like trying to balance, and physically you are also coping up, right, with your body after having two babies, working and things like that. So it was a very challenging time, and I have a couple of times snapped at them. I remember when I was driving and they became naughty, like I just would like shout, and it was not really right. And so things like that motivated me to find myself, which is why I call this program Finding Yourself. To become more balanced, and we have a goodness in our heart, right? So now I did things which I didn't understand why I did, but it helped me. But now reading this concept, now I understand, oh, okay, so the whole concept about being present, right? Being present, surrendering to the moment. So when you are being present, even if you don't like the situation, if you surrender, like at that time I'm with my child and the child is being naughty, but maybe my mind is somewhere else, maybe my mind is on somebody has said something bad to me and I'm like thinking about that. You know what I mean? So I'm not being present with them, but that past is affecting my thought. So that is one possibility. The other possibility is you're not taking care of yourself. You're not, um, you may have not eaten food the whole day, right? And so obviously, if you are not eaten food and you're hungry, like you would notice like that you tend to be more snappy. So I think like all that helped me, and now understanding that being in the present, if you are in the present, surrender to that moment, right? And try to enjoy that moment. But if you are not really, so now like let's get out of the example of the children scenario, but say an example of you are in a crowd, you are with somebody who is really nasty and speaking, or you have gone out with your friend and you are really not enjoying, his or her company. You can remove yourself, right? Or you can choose to sit down, say that the friend is like just venting out. You can choose to sit down and listen to him or her and surrender to that. Or the other thing is, if you don't do both of them, then you suffer. Suffer as in you are neither in the present, but in your mind is chattering and your mind is telling that, oh my God, I shouldn't be doing this. So whenever your mind says something, you have to try to segregate it. So that's where like I learned the concept about the consciousness and your mind. And so you start looking at your mind, your thought as a third person. So when you start being aware of it, right? Like Diana, when you said like, oh, you are self-talking that you will not achieve what you want because of your past scenario or because of your past experience. So we all carry a lot of past history and memory, which if we utilize it, it can be good, right? For example, if you have somebody, who is consistently hurting you or, whom you don't want, who would really extract things out of you, that past memory is helpful because that helps you make the choice now, right? So if that person comes and asks me for something, I can choose and it would be totally my choice that no, I want to do it or I don't want to do it. And if I do it, it'll be my choice and not because I'm obligated. So, but if your mind is saying stories in your head, try to segregate it. So I'm not sure, like, if you are understanding, where I'm going, and I can like plan for a meditation about this the next time. But this is one concept which really helped me when I started treating my mind as a third person, not really me. Like, so when my mind will start talking things, I'm like, oh, okay, So then you start catching it. So it's your mind, and so you don't let your mind control you. So think about the mind and your thought as tools which you can use for the life here, right? But don't let your mind control you. Like when your mind is controlling you, meaning like when you have a thought that, oh, in the past I have worked so hard, but nothing happened. So let me not do anything about it. So that is your mind controlling you, right? But how do you control yourself? Then when that thought comes, you are going to think like, oh, okay, what is the present now? Okay, this is the present. What am I going to do? What is the action? What I'm going to do? And then you continue doing what you have to do. You learn from the past, but don't let the past story affect, your present. So that's what I can share. And I think like this is something which you have to experience it yourself, and you can have this more by catching your awareness. So again, I think we all have been, from the beginning of our session, we have been talking about awareness, right? Like being aware of what we do, aware that, okay, when you get angry, you know that, oh, I'm getting angry. right? So that's not a bad thing, but you are aware that you're getting angry, and that awareness is going to help you. Like if I'm with my child and I know that I don't like the feeling of shouting, to my child, and I am feeling that I'm really, really, really starting to get angry because whatever my child is doing is snapping me, right? So then you can kind of, first step is you are aware that you're getting angry, and whatever you're going to do is going to affect the situation. So I would then take myself out and align myself, in the sense that calm myself. And calming down technique, we have spoken about deep breathing, about breathing is one technique which has really, really helped me in just grounding myself, taking myself out of any situation. So what I would, recommend is, in any situation where you snap or where you are really angry, just remove yourself. Again, the same concept, like those two things: surrender, remove, right? So removing is when you know that you don't want that thing to happen. So it can only also be used for yourself, right? When you know that you are getting angry, and your anger is going to cause, I guess, like, which you don't like, the situation which you don't like in your family or outside. Just remove yourself, take the time for yourself, and ground yourself, and do the deep breathing. And breathing can really, really help you, and bring you back to normal. Okay. So let me share one. Okay, so let me share a reading about, a paragraph or so. I don't know if you have heard about Eckhart Tolle. Any one of you have heard about him?
I heard about it, but I haven't read any book. Yeah, I heard about it.
So he is like my latest guy. So
Okay.
I actually, like, have you seen my show, 1001 Thagachari, right? Where people come, and of course, uh, Dinah has been a part of it. I'm waiting for you, Gayatri, to be a part of it. And of course, Rajkumar, you're most welcome too.
Sure, sure.
So the purpose of my show is to um, spread positivity and spread the idea of practicing gratitude. Because when you are in gratitude at that moment, you can just feel that strength of gratitude, and there can be no other feeling at that time. And I feel that, in our community, we need that, right? So that's how I started that. And as part of this program, when we talk about gratitude, we talk about gratitude to somebody who is in our immediate circle, and then at the level of Manipur, and at the global level. And when you share, right, when you share, your consciousness would raise. Like, for example, when I learn something from someone and I share it in this group, and even like when you guys share, we are raising our consciousness, right? We are,
Yeah.
as a team, raising our consciousness. And we need to do this. We need to expand it more, specifically in our community where we are seeing a lot of, like, trouble. And if there are more and more people who are conscious, then our environment is going to become more positive, right? So in one of the show, Dr. Jugindro Sorokhaibam, he is one person whom I really, really look up to in Manipur, and I truly feel he's the leader. He is the one who has founded palliative care in Manipur. So when I asked him about gratitude at the global level, he nominated this guy, Eckhart Tolle. And I have not heard about him at all at that time. So you can imagine how, like, each person would come to your life when you need a message. So this guy has been around for like forever, but I have never heard about him, right? Like, Rajkumar, you mentioned about Robin. Yeah, Robin, I have heard. So what I'm trying to say is, every person you meet in your life, there is a reason, and there is some learning. And when you are ready as a person, you will meet that person. So I want to believe that we all four of us are here, and we have met for a reason, right? Like there is some learning from each other or whatever be the case. So when I came to know about him, I first looked him up, read and listened to a lot of podcasts and a lot of the concept. When I went through my personal journey, like 2012 was kind of like, the time where I felt like I really needed it. And, that's when I really started looking more and more insight. And 2012 I started, and I have, I look in the YouTube, I read a lot of books, but I have never come across this guy. So then I truly felt that, oh wow, yeah, I do need his message now, and that's why I came to know about him, right? So, and he is um, like his concept initially maybe I would not have understood, but now I look back and I see like, oh, why did I go for a walk? Or why does walking help? Why does going back to nature help? Remember, like in our previous class we spoke about, hey, do running, do some physical exercise, and it would help you. And I never understood like why it helps. And this guy is really teaching me, and that's the concept I'm trying to learn from him. I'm still in the process, but I do want to share, this reading because I think it is relevant to what Gayatri and Dinah had shared. Okay. Your story, however, consists not only of mental, but also of emotional memory, all emotion that is being revived continuously. As in the case of the monk who carried the burden of his resentment for 5 hours by feeding it in his thought, most people carry a large amount of unnecessary baggage, both mental and emotional, throughout their lives. They limit themselves through grievance, regret, hostility, guilt. Their emotional thinking has become their self, and so they hang on to the old emotion because it strengthens their identity. Because of the human tendency to perpetuate old emotion, almost everyone carries in his or her energy field an accumulation of old emotional pain, which I call the pain body. We can, however, stop adding to the pain body that we already have. We can learn to break the habit of accumulating and perpetuating old emotion by flapping our wings, metaphorically speaking, and refrain from mentally dwelling on the past, regardless of whether something happened yesterday or 30 years ago. We can learn not to keep situation or events alive in our mind, but to return our excuse me, but to return our attention continuously to the pristine, timeless present moment rather than being caught up in a mental movie making. Our very presence then become our identity rather than our thoughts and emotion. So that is just a small reading, but I would definitely recommend you to look him up, and um, his podcast could be slow, but it is. I mean, I have really got a lot of insights. But mainly, just to summarize, it's when you catch yourself thinking about the past, and that past is affecting your action of the present. That's where you are more aware. You catch yourself, and you just live to the present. Just live to the present. So, does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, so much.
Yeah. So I am really excited about sharing this because it looks very simple, right? I mean, how many times have we heard? Don't think about the past, live in the present. But I never really like found that depthness, and it was only like the past, couple of weeks when I started being more aware, right? So now, like for example, um, okay, so let me give an example. Recently, right? So I had given something to somebody. And generally, as a human, when you give something to someone, you expect, right, an acknowledgement, right? So I got myself thinking like, oh, I don't know why I haven't heard, right? Like, did did she like it or did she not like it, or she didn't even say thank you and things like that. So earlier in my previous time, I would have been very sad, right? I would have been like, oh my God, like, I made so much effort and no acknowledgement and things like that. But I was so proud of myself, like, oh, okay, I thought about it, I got, and I'm like, oh my God, right now I was actually playing with my kids in the park. And I'm like, right now I am present. My present is me and my kids, and my attention should be this park with this beautiful trees. It's a little cold, but watching them shoot basketball hoops, right? But my mind was thinking about that, like, oh, did that person get that gift? And why is she not saying she got it or whatever? Like, the kids took a lot of time to buy things. And so I started being more aware of it. Like, and then I'm like, I snapped out of it and I'm like, okay, now back, okay, present, okay, this is a park, this is my kids. And then I ran and, I started being more engaged and started shooting the basketball hoops with them. So it really helped me. And I hope, you would, I guess, try it. And awareness is the first one. If it becomes too much, like you become too emotional reading, right? And we can go over some of the breathing techniques. I have learned more different breathing techniques, and it really helps. So I think with that, I'm going to end what I'm going to share, because we do want to speak about two other topics. Any questions on anything we spoke about now?